Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about PCOS.
PCOS.
Yeah, polycystic ovary syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be kind of looking at it through the lens of diet.
Okay.
And we've got two studies that we're going to be taking a look at.
Yes.
One is a case study,
Okay.
and it focuses on a 31-year-old woman who was diagnosed with PCOS and then was treated using a combination of Ayurveda and conventional medicine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear more about this.
Yeah. And then the other study investigated the mind diet.
Okay.
And how closely people followed the mind diet,
Yeah.
and the odds of them having PCOS.
All right. So looking at the relationship between the mind diet and PCOS.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so I think our mission today is to uncover kind of the key facts about PCOS, see if there's really a connection between what we eat and this condition,
Right.
and really get down to the bottom of whether the mind diet is worth all the hype.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
So before we get into that, I think we should start by defining PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. What is it?
Well, think about all the different hormones in your body.
Okay.
It's like an orchestra.
Okay.
And they all have to be playing together really nicely.
They got to be in tune.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
PCOS is basically like when there's a little bit of dissonance in the orchestra, specifically with your menstrual cycle and the development of eggs in your ovaries.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, irregular periods.
No, it's a hormonal condition that can really manifest in different ways.
Okay, so how is it diagnosed then?
Doctors use something called the Rotterdam criteria to diagnose it, and it's not just one thing, it's a combination of symptoms.
Okay, so tell me about those.
Well, first, there are irregular periods.
Okay.
Many women with PCOS experience that, and it could be anything from totally skipping a period to super long cycles or just unpredictable bleeding.
Like you never know when it's going to
Yeah.
show up.
And then there's hyperandrogenism, which is basically when you have higher levels of androgens, which are male hormones.
Okay.
And this can actually lead to things like oh, really? Excess hair growth on your face or your body, or even hair thinning on your head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can be pretty rough.
Yeah, I imagine, especially for like a young woman
Yeah,
to be dealing with that.
it's tough.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is polycystic ovaries,
Okay,
which is where the name comes from.
that makes sense.
Think about it like a string of pearls.
Okay,
Each pearl is a tiny little follicle that holds an egg.
gotcha.
But with PCOS, these follicles, they don't mature properly. And
Okay.
they kind of build up, and that makes the ovaries look larger than usual.
Oh, so they can actually see that?
Yes, on an ultrasound.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like a string of pearls that never quite like become the beautiful necklace that they're supposed to be.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that it often comes with other health challenges too.
Okay, so like what?
Well, the big one is insulin resistance, which means your body isn't using insulin effectively, and that can make it harder to manage your weight and even increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, and like you said, it affects hormones, which control basically everything in our body.
Really, everything. It's a kind of domino effect.
Yeah, it can affect a lot of different systems.
Yeah, and it can also increase the risk of things like heart disease and sleep apnea.
Really?
Yeah, it's serious stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really shows how everything's connected.
Exactly. And this case study that we're looking at today focused on kind of a more holistic approach to managing it.
Okay.
So this 31-year-old woman, she was experiencing the classic trifecta of PCOS symptoms,
Yeah.
weight gain, irregular periods, and that excess hair growth that we talked about, which is called hirsutism.
Okay.
And the doctors did something called a transvaginal sonography.
What is that?
It's basically an ultrasound that gives a really clear picture of the ovaries.
Oh, so they could see the, like, quote-unquote pearls that weren't really developing properly.
Well, exactly. And they confirmed that there were multiple cysts.
Okay.
Now, what makes this case study so interesting is that they used Ayurveda in addition to conventional medicine.
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Okay, I know a little bit about that.
Okay,
It's that ancient Indian system of medicine,
that's right.
and it focuses on, like, balancing different energies in the body.
You got it. Okay.
And in Ayurveda, they view PCOS as an imbalance of two key energies, or doshas,
Okay.
called kapha and pitta.
Okay.
So kapha, it's like the energy of stability and growth.
Okay.
It helps build tissues and keeps us grounded.
Gotcha.
When kapha is out of balance, it can lead to weight gain, slow metabolism, fluid retention.
All things that are very relevant to
Exactly.
PCOS.
Exactly. And then pitta is the energy of transformation and metabolism.
Oh, okay.
It's like the fire that keeps things moving.
And when pitta is out of whack, it can lead to inflammation and hormonal disruptions.
Oh, okay.
So both of those are related to PCOS as well.
So it sounds like she was dealing with an imbalance of both
Yes.
kapha and pitta.
Both of them.
Okay, so how do they?
Well, this is what I love about Ayurveda.
Okay.
It's really holistic.
Okay.
They didn't just throw medication at her.
Right.
They looked at her whole life.
Okay.
So they suggested she start incorporating things like swimming yoga and brisk walking.
Okay.
All things that help improve insulin sensitivity and help with weight management.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about her diet?
Her diet was also tailored to her specific dosha imbalances.
Okay.
They focused on warming low-carb foods that have a lot of anti-inflammatory ingredients like ginger and turmeric.
Oh, okay.
So picture lots of fresh veggies, lean proteins, and healthy fats.
Okay.
Things like olive oil and nuts.
So no like processed foods,
Right.
sugary drinks.
Not in this case, no.
Okay, interesting.
And the results were really encouraging. After she made these lifestyle changes, her follow-up ultrasound showed a lot of improvement.
Oh, wow.
The cysts were less prominent and her symptoms had lessened.
That's great.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it kind of points to this idea that using this holistic approach that combines conventional medicine and Ayurveda can really be beneficial.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's like a missing piece for some people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It could be.
So this case study, it suggests that maybe this more holistic approach could be helpful for managing PCOS.
Right.
But it is just one case study.
Yeah.
So we can't draw like sweeping conclusions from it.
Exactly. But it gives us some really valuable insight.
Yeah, and I think it really highlights the importance of like individualized treatment.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought was really interesting about this case study.
Yeah.
And it makes this next study so interesting
Okay.
because it's looking at a dietary pattern
Okay.
that might actually benefit a much wider range of women with PCOS.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
The mind diet.
The mind diet.
Yes, have you heard of it?
I have.
Okay, I feel like there's so many different diets out there.
So many.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep them straight.
It's really hard to keep them all straight.
Yeah.
So can we just break down what the mind diet actually is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So the mind diet is basically a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DAS diet.
Okay.
Both of those are known for being really heart healthy.
Yes, I've heard of both of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, it's a way of eating that focuses on nourishing your brain and your body with whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay, so give me the highlight reel. Like, what are the foods?
Okay, so picture your plate.
Okay.
Lots of vibrant colors.
Okay.
Lots of delicious flavors.
Okay. I like where this is going. Keep going.
Leafy greens like spinach and kale.
Okay.
Berries bursting with antioxidants.
Okay.
Crunchy nuts and seeds.
Okay.
And plenty of beans and lentils.
Okay. So far, so good.
Yeah, and we can't forget healthy fats.
Of course not.
Olive oil is a staple. So drizzle it on your salads, cook with it,
Yeah.
and fish at least twice a week.
Okay.
Particularly those fatty fish like salmon. They're so good for your brain and your heart.
Okay, this is sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
So what about the things that you should limit or avoid?
It's really all about choosing healthier options.
Okay.
So cut back on the red meat,
Okay.
processed foods.
So like packaged snacks.
Yeah, fast food, all that stuff.
Okay.
And try to limit those sugary treats that can spike your blood sugar.
Okay.
It's really just common sense eating. It's
Yeah.
like what your grandma would have cooked.
Exactly.
Just good, wholesome food.
Okay.
And what the researchers in this study wanted to see is if there was a connection between how closely women follow the mind diet
Okay.
and their chances of having PCOS.
That's what I call a deep dive.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what they found.
Okay, so they gave people something called a food frequency questionnaire.
What is that?
It's a super detailed survey that asks how often people eat certain foods.
Okay.
And then they divided the participants into 3 groups based on their scores.
Okay.
Those groups are called turtles.
Okay.
And the top turtle represents the people who were most closely following the mind diet.
Okay, so the mind diet superstars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the question is, did the mind diet superstars have a lower risk of PCOS?
Okay.
Did that?
They
Yes, they did.
they did.
They did.
That's huge.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
They found that the women in the highest turtle of mind diet scores had a significantly lower risk of PCOS compared to those with the lowest scores.
Okay, so that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but the question is why?
Right.
What is it about the mind diet that could be having this protective effect?
I think that's what we should talk about after the break.
All right, so let's take a quick break and we'll be back to discuss the why
Sounds good.
in just a few minutes.
So before the break, we were talking about this study that found a link between the mind diet and a lower risk of PCOS.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to know why that is. Like, what is it about this way of eating that seems to make a difference?
Okay, well, let's think back to what we talked about earlier about PCOS and insulin resistance. So remember, insulin resistance means your body isn't using insulin as effectively as it should.
Yeah, and that can lead to problems with weight management and even increase the risk of diabetes.
Exactly. Now, the mind diet is packed with nutrients that are actually known to support healthy insulin function.
Okay.
For example, magnesium.
Okay.
Magnesium is a mineral that plays a key role in helping your cells use insulin properly.
Okay, so the mind diet with all of its leafy greens and nuts and beans, which are all good sources of magnesium, could actually be helping to improve insulin sensitivity in women who are prone to PCOS.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And it's not just magnesium. The mind diet is also a great source of folate.
Folate.
Yeah, it's a B vitamin that helps to regulate something called homocysteine.
Homocysteine, remind me what that is again.
Sure, so think of homocysteine as a byproduct of certain processes in your body.
Okay.
And when the levels of homocysteine get too high, it can actually interfere with insulin's ability to do its job.
Oh, so it's like homocysteine is like throwing a wrench in the whole system.
Yes, exactly. A great way to put it.
Okay.
And folate helps to keep homocysteine levels in check.
Okay.
And folate is found in a lot of those delicious leafy greens and other mind diet staples.
So by eating plenty of those folate-rich foods, it could indirectly be supporting insulin sensitivity and potentially even reducing the risk of PCOS.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It's all starting to make sense now.
That is.
Okay, so we've got magnesium, we've got folate.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else about the mind diet that could be playing a role?
There is one other really interesting aspect that I think is important to mention.
Okay, what's that?
Remember how we talked about inflammation being a factor in PCOS?
Yes.
And how women with PCOS often have higher levels of inflammation throughout their bodies?
Right.
Well, the mind diet is like a superhero when it comes to fighting inflammation.
Oh.
It's packed full of antioxidants from all these colorful fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
And healthy fats like olive oil also have anti-inflammatory properties.
So it's like a double whammy.
Mhm.
It's addressing both insulin resistance and inflammation.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted approach to supporting hormonal balance and overall health.
Okay.
And I think that's what makes this study so compelling.
It really highlights how powerful food can be. I mean, not just for our physical health, but our hormonal health too.
It's not about finding some magical cure-all pill or something.
Yeah.
It's about making those sustainable lifestyle changes that nourish your body from the inside out.
And I think that's where a lot of women struggle.
Yeah,
They're bombarded with all this information about quick fixes and miracle cures.
it's true.
It's really easy to get caught up in the hype, especially when you're feeling desperate for relief.
Absolutely. And the marketing around PCOS can be overwhelming and honestly pretty exploitative.
Yeah.
Women are often led to believe that there's this easy solution, like a pill, a supplement, a special tea, that will magically make all their symptoms disappear.
Yeah. And unfortunately, those quick fixes rarely work, and sometimes they can even be harmful.
Yeah, you really have to be careful.
Yeah, it's so important to remember that there's no magic bullet for PCOS,
Right?
just like there isn't for most health conditions.
Exactly.
It's about those gradual, long-term changes that support your overall well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
And that's where knowledge is so important.
Mhm.
The more you understand about PCOS and how it impacts your body, the better equipped you are to make informed decisions about your health.
It's about taking control of your health journey
Yeah.
and not falling prey to marketing gimmicks that promise the world, but really deliver very little.
I love that.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits of the mind diet,
Yes.
but there's one more thing I want to touch on that we haven't talked about much yet.
What's that?
Stress.
Oh, stress.
Yes.
That's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
I know for me, whenever I'm feeling really stressed out, it just throws my hormones completely out of whack.
I totally get that. And it's especially relevant for women with PCOS
Okay.
because stress hormones like cortisol can actually disrupt the delicate balance of hormones that regulate your menstrual cycle.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
PCOS can cause stress, and then stress can worsen PCOS symptoms.
It's a tricky situation.
It is, yeah.
So finding healthy ways to manage stress is absolutely crucial for anyone with PCOS.
Okay, so what kind of stress-busting strategies can people try?
Well, exercise is a fantastic stress reliever.
Yep.
It helps boost those feel-good chemicals in your brain called endorphins,
Okay.
and it can do wonders for improving your mood and your energy levels.
Yeah, I always feel better after a good workout.
Me too. And it doesn't have to be anything too intense.
Right.
Even just a brisk walk in nature, a yoga class, a little dance session in your living room,
Yeah.
all of that can help release tension and calm your mind.
I love that movement is medicine.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got exercise. What else?
Mindfulness practices like meditation can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Even just taking a few minutes each day to focus on your breath, observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment can make a huge difference in how you handle stress.
That makes sense.
And of course, we can't forget about sleep.
Sleep is so important.
So important.
Yeah.
When you're sleep deprived, your body produces more cortisol.
Which is the stress hormone.
Exactly the one we don't want too much of.
Right.
So aiming for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night can really help keep those stress levels in check.
It sounds like we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about PCOS, the mind, diet, stress management. But I think it's important to remember that PCOS is a very personal journey.
Absolutely.
And what works for one person might not work for another.
That's so true. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to managing this condition.
Right. It's about finding what works best for you, your body, and your lifestyle. And that's where working with a healthcare professional you trust is so crucial.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, they can help you create an individualized treatment plan that addresses your specific needs and goals.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Ask questions, do your research, and find a healthcare team that really supports you and listens to your concerns.
Knowledge is power.
It really is.
The more you understand about PCOS, the more control you have over your health journey.
You got it.
You know, one thing that strikes me is that we've been talking about the mind diet and all of its benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But food can be a really sensitive topic for some people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What we eat is so tied to our culture, our emotions, our sense of identity even.
Right. And for some women, especially those who might have a history of disordered eating or body image struggles, focusing on a specific diet can feel really restrictive or even triggering.
I completely understand, and it's crucial to approach any dietary changes with sensitivity and a focus on what feels sustainable and nourishing for the individual.
So maybe instead of thinking of the mind diet as this rigid set of rules,
Yeah,
it's better to view it as a framework,
I like that.
like a set of guiding principles that you can adapt to fit your own needs and preferences.
That's a great way to put it. It's about making those gradual shifts toward a way of eating that emphasizes those whole unprocessed foods without feeling like you have to overhaul your entire life overnight.
Yeah, and it's about finding joy in food.
Right.
The mind diet is not about deprivation. It's about celebrating those delicious, nourishing foods that make you feel good.
Exactly. It's about creating a healthy relationship with food that supports both your physical and mental well-being.
You know, one thing we haven't talked about much is the emotional impact of PCOS.
Yeah,
It's not just a physical condition.
right.
It can really take a toll on your self-esteem and your body image.
Absolutely. The visible symptoms of PCOS, like acne, excess hair growth, weight fluctuations, can be incredibly distressing for women.
Yeah.
And the societal pressure to conform to certain beauty standards can make it even harder.
It's like you're constantly battling against your own body,
Yeah,
and that can be so exhausting and
it
demoralizing.
really can.
Yeah. So it's important to find support,
Yes.
whether it's from friends, family, a therapist, a support group.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, it's about surrounding yourself with people who understand what you're going through and can offer encouragement and just a listening ear.
And remember, you are not alone in this.
Yeah.
PCOS is incredibly common. It affects millions of women worldwide.
Wow.
There's a whole community of women out there who get it, and there's strength in sharing your experiences and supporting each other.
I think that's a really beautiful message to end on.
I agree.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into PCOS. We've learned so much about the condition itself, the potential benefits of the minded diet, the importance of stress management, and the power of finding support in community.
It's been a pleasure exploring all of this with you.
Likewise.
And to all the women out there who are dealing with PCOS, remember that you are strong, you are beautiful, and you are worthy of feeling your best.
Yes, and never give up hope. There are resources available to support you, And with the right knowledge and a commitment to self-care, you can absolutely thrive.
You can.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic, so be sure to tune in.
We'll see you then.
Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of yourselves.
Yeah, it's really empowering to realize that we're not just passengers on this health journey. We can actually take the wheel and make choices that support our well-being.
Exactly. And that sense of empowerment, I think, is essential, especially when you're dealing with a condition like PCOS that can just feel so out of your control.
One thing that strikes me is that we've been talking about the mind-diet diet and all its potential benefits, but food can be a really sensitive topic for some
Oh,
people.
for sure. What we eat is so tied to our culture, our emotions, even our sense of identity.
Exactly. And for some women, especially those who maybe have a history of disordered eating or body image struggles, focusing on a specific diet can feel really restrictive or even triggering. Yeah, I hear that. And it's so important to approach any dietary changes with sensitivity and really focus on what feels sustainable and nourishing for that individual.
Right. So maybe instead of thinking of the mind diet as like this rigid set of rules, it's better to view it as a framework, like a set of guiding principles that you can adapt to fit your own needs and preferences.
I love that it's about making those gradual shifts toward a way of eating that emphasizes whole, unprocessed foods without feeling like you have to completely overhaul your entire life overnight.
Yeah, and it's about finding joy in food. The mind diet is not about deprivation. It's about celebrating those delicious, nourishing foods that make you feel good.
Absolutely. It's about creating a healthy relationship with food that supports both your physical and mental well-being.
One thing we haven't talked about much is the emotional impact of PCOS. It's not just a physical condition. It can really take a toll on your self-esteem and your body image.
You're so right. The visible symptoms of PCOS, things like the acne, excess hair growth, weight fluctuations, they can be incredibly distressing for women.
Hmm.
And you add in the societal pressure to conform to certain beauty standards, it just makes it even harder.
Yeah, it's like you're constantly battling against your own body, and that can be so exhausting and demoralizing.
It really can. So finding support, whether it's from friends, family, a therapist, a support group, is so important.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who understand what you're going through and who can offer encouragement and a listening ear.
And remember, you are not alone. PCOS is incredibly common. It affects millions of women worldwide. There's a whole community of women out there who get it. And there's strength in sharing your experiences and supporting each other.
That's a beautiful message to end on. This has been such an insightful deep dive into PCOS. We've learned so much about the condition itself, the potential benefits of the mind diet, the importance of stress management, and the power of finding support and community.
It's been a pleasure exploring all of this with you.
It's likewise. And to all the amazing women out there who are dealing with PCOS, remember that you are strong, you are beautiful, and you are worthy of feeling your best.
Yes, and never give up hope. There are resources available to support you, and with the right knowledge and a commitment to self-care, you can absolutely thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic, so be sure to tune in. Till then, stay curious, stay informed, and take good care of yourselves.